Hello and welcome back to the channel, and in this video we're going to focus on the guitarist out there who is used to using a pedal board, an amp, and is thinking about switching over to a Helix. But whatever your reasonings may be, you're thinking about switching over to the Helix, maybe you're just interested, you want to try it, and this video is going to be for you. Or if you know someone who is thinking about doing what I've just said about switching over to the Helix, or just wanted to try it out, maybe you can share this video with them. So if you've seen my recent videos, you know that I've been uploading a bunch of my presets to the custom tone part of the Line 6 website. I probably won't upload today's preset because it's more the philosophy of the preset that is important. The pedals themselves can change depending what pedals you use or what pedals you want to use. And it's so basic anyway, you don't really need a preset for this. But if you do happen to want it, if there's enough demand for it, let me know and I'll upload it for you guys. And by the way, if you do download any of my presets, or if you just like what I do in this channel in general, you can buy me a coffee. And as I said in the last video, just to avoid confusion, because a couple of people have been confused, it's not a literal coffee, it is just basically sending a couple of quid my way as a thank you, as an appreciation of what I do in this channel. This is a real coffee, so I'm good for literal coffees at the moment. But yeah, any spare change you want to throw my way is much appreciated. And speaking of liking what I do, if you do like what this video or any of my other videos, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, and also a subscription would be lovely. I'm aiming for my first 1,000 subscribers. We're nearly there, so have a look at the number at the bottom, the subscription number at the bottom. It's currently just over 800 as I film this, last time I checked. So we're nearly at the 1,000 mark, so please subscribe if you haven't already, and let's hit that 1,000 mark together. Alright, so let's get into this video. I will describe what is on my preset now. So here we go, here is my layout for, I call it my first preset. I know it's hopefully not too condescending. So on the Helix you have these two lines here. You can have two separate guitars if you want. You can connect these for one big longer line if you need the processing power. For the moment I haven't joined these two lines. We're only looking at this top line with all the squares on it. You can ignore this bottom line, and I'll show you what we've got here. So it goes from left to right. So on your pedal board we go from right to left when you plug them in. Here we're going left to right. That signifies we've got a guitar plugged in, and that's going to be set to going to the output, to the generic output. The first thing we've got here, and I've tried to create this pedal board to be typical of what a lot of people might have on their pedal boards. So something quite, I don't know, bluesy, rocky, kind of quite straightforward. In fact, I'll start at the end here. So the last thing we've got is the amp. Everything's going to go into the amp. So starting off with, I've got here the Diana drive, which is basically the Zen drive, is a model of the Zen drive. I've got the Horizon drive. I've never actually tried this before. We've got two gains there going into a flanger, so we've got some modulation, into a tape delay with some reverb, into the amp. I haven't actually listened to this pedal board yet. I've created this, I haven't listened to it yet, so we'll see. We'll try and tweak it. I may swap things out, and that's very easy to do, so if I do that, at least you can see how to do that. I don't want to go too much into how to use the Helix in here, but I just want to show you how you can kind of start with maybe mimicking your pedal board at the moment on the Helix. So this is just going through a bunch of pedals into the amp at the end here, which is just a US Deluxe normal is basically a Fender Deluxe reverb. So that's the layout on here when you kind of create the effects. The pedal board is slightly different. I've done it in the order that you would have it on your actual pedal board. So the first effect we have here is the Diana drive, the Zen drive here, going into the Horizon drive, going into the flanger, going into the tape delay. I didn't bother putting the reverb. I could if I wanted to. Well, I'll show you how to do that. If I wanted to put a reverb there as well, if I wanted to turn it on and off, I select the reverb here and literally just touch the pedal that I want to attach it to. Gives you this option here if you want to actually go through with it, which I do. So I'll do that again, click OK, and there pops up my spring reverb, which I can have on or off. But I thought I'm going to have this on all the time anyway, so I will just leave it there. So let's have a listen to it. Sounds all right. So I haven't touched any settings yet. I've just literally added them. To my ears, the reverb sounds a bit too hot, a bit too much reverb. So you can, if you want to adjust it how you want. So I'm going to turn it down a little bit. So it's 30. It was on 38%. Let's turn it down to say 34%. Yeah, that sounds all right. If I want to change amp settings, I'll go to my amp, and then I can just change the drive, the bass, mid, treble, presence, volume. I can go to the next page for more options. There's my master, which is on full, and a bunch of these other ones which I wouldn't worry about just yet. Sag, hum, ripple, bias, bias X. Don't worry about those for the moment. One more page is the cab. So what microphone you want to use, the distance, and any highs or low cuts you want to do. Again, if you don't want to bother with that, that's fine. I've also, with this amp here, I've done amp and cab. You do have the option to choose your amp and your cab separately. So if you wanted to use, I don't know, a Marshall JTM 45 with a Fender 1x10 cab, then you can do that if you wanted to do that. But I've kept it simple. I've just kind of put an amp there. If you want to use this as a pedal board for your existing amp, you can just take the amp away. If you had this preset, you can just click on this bypass here and it will turn it off. That's the sound of the guitar only, just going through the reverb. Let's turn the reverb off. So obviously it doesn't sound very good, so let's turn the amp back on again. And the reverb. Right, let's try some of these effects out. So again, I've got this in the order that I would have if this was a real pedal board. So let's start with the Dyna drive, the Zen drive. I have used this before. I can't remember how it sounds, but I know it sounded good. But let's try it. Yeah, sounds quite good. If I want to adjust that, I'll just tap on it, and this changes to the Dyna drive. Do I want to change anything? Actually, sounds quite good off the bat. Maybe I'll turn the gain down a bit. I want to try and have a light drive there. All right, let's turn that off. Let's try the Horizon drive. I think this is meant to be a stronger drive, like there's more gain to it, but let's find out because I've never tried this one before. I'm sorry, that reverb is kind of still a bit strong in my ears. I might turn the decay down a little bit and the mix as well. And if you know what pre-delay is, you can add a bit of pre-delay. Okay, Horizon drive. Let's try to turn that gain up, see how that sounds. Okay, all right. At least I've tried it now. Quite like that Dyna drive. I do like the Horizon drive. I might want to change that to something else. So how would I do that? I will go to this toggle wheel here, press down. I'm already in the distortions here, and maybe I will try... Let's try the Alpaca Rouge. And it's another one I haven't tried. I have tried it very briefly, but I know it's meant to be like a slightly fuzzy sound, but I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to give it a go anyway. Yeah, I can hear that fuzziness there. Let's change a few things around. So I've done this setup before, and I'm kind of going back to something that I'm kind of comfortable with. I'm going to change this light drive, the Dyna drive, to the Minotaur. Kinky Boost, by the way, is another good one I'd be interested in trying. That is the EP booster by Exotic. Let's go Minotaur. This is the Clon. Yeah, a bit more familiar territory for me. I mean, I don't have a Clon, but I have used this one before. And what I've also done is used a tube screamer as well. So let's change that to a tube screamer. Scream 808. So let's put that on its own. Oh, No, I've not done that properly. Well, I've put it where the clon was by accident, but this is what it sounds like. If I wanted to switch these round, I can hold these two, just touch them, ask me if I want to swap them round. So now this tube screamer is here. It doesn't change it on here though, so it will still be first position. So if you wanted to stack them in a particular order, you'd have to change it on here, which if you wanted to do that would be like this. So that's the tube screamer there. I press the action button and I can move it around. I'm going to move it, nudge it along there, press the button down again. Now the compulsive drive is first and the tube screamer is second. And I actually wanted to change that to the clon, which is what I did earlier on. There we go. So clon and tube screamer together, they're actually in the right order now. So that one first and that one. I might actually want to turn the tube screamer up a bit in terms of gain. Alright, so hope you get the idea. I'm following the standard way of the accepted way of ordering your pedals. You've got the gains first, got some modulation which we're going to look at next, and then your time-based, your delay and your reverb, and then into the amp. So let's check out this flanger. I'm not too conversant with flangers, to be honest, but I have used some of this grey flanger before. Again, I can't remember what this is a model of. In my head, this needs some distortion with it, so I might even change one of these to be a heavier distortion. Let's change that Scream 808. A valve driver I've used before, which I like. Let's stick with that one. Grey flanger. That kind of sounds good off the bat, so I'm going to leave it the way it is. And we're actually going to move on to the transistor tape delay. I'll leave the valve driver on. Alright, so that tape delay can be, we can change a few things on that. So the mix. So to me that sounds quite a lot. So I'm going to bring that down a bit. So I'm kind of wanting a delay that will kind of blend nicely with my sound and not kind of get in the way. So I don't want it to be too loud. And again, hopefully you're hearing it similarly to how I'm hearing it. So obviously one of the things you can change with the delay is the time. You can set it here to milliseconds. It's currently set to 507 milliseconds, which someone at Line 6 has deemed to be a good time, I guess you could say. Obviously feedback is how many repeats you want. I'm going to bring that down a little bit, 40 something. maybe down a little bit more. Yeah, that's okay, I think. Obviously, you can, however you want to do it, you can set that to however you want. If you wanted to use the tap tempo, which is flashing, which has been flashing here all this time, all into this button here, or this rotary knob here, press it down, and you can set it to a quarter note. So if you got, let's tap it. You can set it to different subdivisions. The one I also like is the dotted eighth. Let's do eighth note. And all various other versions or subdivisions that you may want to use. I think most people will probably want quarter note delay. Quarter or eighth or dotted eighth is probably the most common ones you're gonna use. I'm gonna change this valve driver back to the tube screamer. I just like the tube screamer, and especially with the Minotaur. Let's put it back up to 8. Yeah, that sounds a lot nicer than the previous one, I think. All right, let's move on. What if you wanted to use your delay in the effects loop? You'd probably want to. So if you want to do it the same way as you would do with your amp and pedalboard setup, you'd have to split this into your amp and cab. So we're using the US Deluxe Normal. What was the cab we're using here? It's called the 1x12 US Deluxe. I'll try and remember that. So I'm going to get rid of this. Action, clear block. Make sure you don't do clear all blocks, otherwise you'll delete everything. Okay, so it's gone now. Now we're going to add it back in. We're going to go to amp and cab separately. So there's amp, US Deluxe Normal, and then the cab was 1x12 US Deluxe. And I believe those are all the same settings. So it's the same as what we just had, but they've split the amp and cab into amp and cab as separate blocks. So with your effects loop, anything that's in your effects loop will go in between those two. So let's move these over. Let's start with the reverb. So I'm going to pick it up by pressing Action and go across. Dump it there by pressing the button. Now your reverb is in the effects loop. All right, let's bring the delay into the effects loop as well. So that sounds a lot nicer to me. It does sound tidier to me, and I can't. It's one of those really subtle things where you do notice a difference, but I don't know. It doesn't sound like the other one wasn't sounding horrible. This one just sounds a bit tidier. And I guess I could put the flanger in there as well. In fact, let's do that. But you don't necessarily have to, depending on what flanger it is. Some flangers are designed to go in front of the amp. But see if it makes a difference with the flanger here. I actually think I prefer that in front. So with this, it doesn't really make too much difference. I'm going to go with what I feel. I think it sounds a bit more pronounced. Yeah, that sounds really tidy to me compared to what it was before we started incorporating this effects loop. That sounds a lot tidier. So that is how you would do the effects loop. So that is a lot quicker than having to unplug everything, get some more cables out, run everything into the effects loop, and then realise there's loads of noise and then have to sort that out as well. This just, I know, it's easier. So if you wanted to do that, if you want to experiment with that on the Helix, that is very doable, and it sounds really good to me. Currently we have everything on at the moment. Now obviously you can change your amp depending what amp you want to use. Maybe you want to recreate the amp that you've already got if it's listed on the Helix, or you might have an amp that you've wanted to try for ages but haven't had the money to get one, or it's just not available, but Line 6 have happened to have modelled it, and you can get it on here. Now, obviously, it's not going to be exactly the same as having the real amp in the room, but in terms of the tone of it as opposed to the feel, I'm not knocking the feel of the Helix, but in terms of having the sound of it, if you're recording or if you're using it live, the sounds on here are pretty good. In fact, very good overall, which is why I use it. So there you go. If you're a guitarist who's used to the traditional pedal board into your amp, but is thinking about going to the Helix, I hope this video helped you out. I've started off with a very basic preset, a very basic setup for you to use that might be similar to what you might be using already. And from here, you can start to make things a lot more complicated, start introducing some studio techniques into your setup. Maybe I'll do a video on that in the future. Let me know if you'd like to see that in the comments below. But hopefully that will help you out to get started on your Helix, and hopefully you can hear that the sounds are pretty good. You can get some pretty good sounds. You may need to tweak them. I will suggest, if you're making these if you do get a Helix and you're making these sounds at home, however you're going to use it, maybe whether it's live or in your at home or in the studio, it'd be nice to, even if you can monitor it the way you're going to hear it when you use it. So for example, if we're doing it live on in-ear monitors, try and use the same in-ear monitors that you're going to use through a kind of mixer setup, ideally the same mixer, which you might not always be able to do, but that way you've got more of an idea of how it's going to sound when you finally get to your gig. Because I've usually found that I'll have it set up at home, and when I get to the gig it sounds very different in my ears. So I've tried to mitigate that by using my in-ear monitors that I use for live gigs, the actual ones I use, going into an audio interface which isn't the same as a mixer, and the different mixers are different with their own different preamps. They might sound a little bit different, but it will get you closer, and the tweaking should be minimal when you get to your gig. But anyway, I hope you found that useful. Please give this video a thumbs up if you found it useful or if you liked it, and please consider subscribing. Again, you can download my presets at the custom tone part of the Line 6 website, so please feel free to do that. They are for free, but you can also buy me a virtual coffee, which is basically a tip, if you do download them or if you just appreciate what I do on this channel. Anyway, videos every Wednesday. I hope you have a good week, and I'll see you next week.